Awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for the reminder.
you. Good morning, council members, any state officials and representatives and members of the public. Welcome to the March 3rd meeting of the Social Equity Council, which I'm calling to order at 10:03 a.m. Hope everyone is well. Before we get into the agenda, I just want to make sure that this body is aware that there's a cannabis bill in development. I think it's currently under House Bill 5109, that will be introduced, that's being introduced this session. Um, a few of the highlights are in the packet that was shared via email on the 27th. And Brandon will walk us through those. That said, there are a number of parties interested in various aspects of the legislation, so I encourage you to connect with him as those parties reach out, just to ensure clarity and transparency. And with that, I'll call the roll. Councilperson Abercrombie,
Present.
Person Beeman,
Present.
Councilperson Betts is not able to join us. Councilperson Borges, I am here. Councilperson Davis,
Present.
Councilperson Gaddis,
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins,
Present.
Councilperson Jefferson,
Present.
Councilperson Karpowitz, Councilperson Medina,
Present.
Councilperson Name,
Present.
Councilperson Shirley,
Present.
Councilperson Skyers Thomas,
Present.
Councilperson Valeries, Councilperson Santiago Veneta,
Present.
Councilperson Walton.
Present.
Thank you all. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the February 3rd, 2026 meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next up are updates from the SEC. So I turn it over to CEO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here and for your continued leadership and stewardship of the council. Before we move into the agenda, again, I want to ground us in our mission. We promote equitable economic prosperity by supporting social equity entrepreneurs and reinvesting in communities most impacted by the war on drugs. So everything you'll hear this morning it ties directly back to the mandate, capital, compliance, coordination, and community impact. Today's update reflects something important, and that is we are no longer building structure. We are now operating at scale. Next slide. Awesome. Thank you. Let me briefly walk you through our fiscal side of the house. As you all are extremely aware, our fiscal year 2026 total operating budget is 17.57 million, which includes personnel services, other expenses, as you see articulated on the site there. This is a substantial public trust, and our responsibility is disciplined and execution. Year to date, our financial summary through February 28th, 2026. You'll see for the month of February, our personnel services at 116,737, other expenses 5,458, total February expenditures 122,195. Also, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see encumbered funds and contracts approved over 25,000 in fiscal year 26 year to date. We have about $38 million, a little over 38 million. This includes our R2 grant managers. That's about $36 million over the next 3 years. MOUs, memorandum of agreements with the Department of Corrections and the Department of Housing at 2 million. And then we have a series of other services that include communications, verification services, training, and subject matter contract expertise. As you all know, this demonstrates we are not just holding or hoarding funds, we are strategically obligating them. And it is important to say that out loud and in this space as we are going through a short session, nonetheless, a session where many of our state agencies are faced with a lot of deficits. And oftentimes, as a former legislator here, we look for money anywhere we can find it to reallocate it to programs. So we all know that our programs are up and running and our dollars are accounted for. So it's extremely important that we're not just moving hastily, but we're moving with intention and strategically when we obligate our funds. Next slide. Now, so let's talk about a little bit about capital development within our revolving loan fund. You all, you're aware of this. This is an ongoing update. We had 50 million authorized in bonds, 10 million allocated, about 1.9 million deployed across 5 loans year to date. There are 3 additional loans pending closing at about 500,000 each. And our current fund balance is about 8 million. Importantly, and I want to call this out, we have 0 defaults, 0 delinquencies, and you all know that reflects strong underwriting, strong applicant vetting, and responsible pacing. We are building sustainability. We're not rushing capital out the door at the expense of long-term viability. But I will say we are shoring up human resource capacity, if you would. We're in the process of onboarding a loan officer to help us expedite some of the capital dollars that are needed by many of our social equity entrepreneurs. I also want to just call out.
I have a question.
Yep.
Or
Sorry,
do you want me to wait till after your report?
Nope. I can stop here through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Executive Director, on the matter of the default and the delinquency, what should we expect in terms of default and delinquency based on a best practice model?
That's a great question, and I'll defer to Madi and Jennifer to respond to your question. Madi?
Thank you. And thank you for your question, Councilman Jefferson. So the assistance agreements that are issued, which are pretty extensive, are guided with DECD's assistance agreements and loan models. And basically they impose penalties. If there's a default, we can call the loan, and there's a percentage that it's imposed. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but there is a penalty that would be imposed on the entity if we have to call the loan, to accelerate payment of such loan. There are opportunities to remedy throughout the process. Obviously, we don't want this to be a punitive process for folks that are seeking assistance from SEC, but there is a procedure in place in the contract to say, you have 30 days to remedy and, make yourself up to date with payments, or we can implement certain measures to call the loan to be payable immediately, in addition to a percentage that's added onto the total as a penalty.
So what do we have any expectations down the road based on the number that we're giving out? We're out 1.9, close to $2 million. Should we expect a default at some point from any of these loans?
Well, we don't go into it, right, expecting that our folks will default.
No, I understand. No one does, but that's the price of doing business. I mean, there has to be some expectation down the road. Here's the thing: we have $10 million. I would hope there's no delinquency, no defaults. I'm just asking out of curiosity. You may not have the answer, and that's fine. I was just asking out of curiosity. Here's my second question. The 10 million, once we exhaust that, do we have access? Do we have access to the 50 million? Is that what the 50 million is for? Or am I misreading something?
Well,
So I
let me
think,
jump in. Let me jump in, Marty. So the bonds authorized, there was a $50 million bond authorization when we stood up the organization to help with many of these businesses. We've drawn down 10, so we're at 40 in the bank, if you would, in the savings account. Internally, with our finance committee and also council member Abercrombie, we're fine tuning how we'd like to move forward with respect to the 40 million that's still sitting in the savings account. We took another look at the statute. The statute is very, very exhaustive in terms of how we can use these funds, and it's not just limited to loans, right? We can use it for capacity support, technical assistance, et cetera. And so we're fine tuning that. We'll be making another request to draw down an additional 20 million so that we can account for the increase in applications for our loan, but also, being able to be responsive to the needs of social equity entrepreneurs right now, because they are in need of capital support, quite frankly. So yes, to your question, we can draw down on those funds. We currently have a request in today to draw down on 20 million.
Is there
Marty?
any risk of losing the money due to non-expend, like if we choose not to spend the money, or if folks do not choose to borrow the money? Are we at risk of losing the money and money being returned to the general fund?
No.
All right.
The money does
Thank
not
you.
go back to the
Sorry.
general fund. That's
But
codified.
I will say this, though, we're extremely assertive and we are moving as quickly as possible in this climate when money is on the table, to your point, Councilman Jefferson. We want to make sure that the world knows we plan to use this money in a strategic way to support the industry, but most importantly, social equity individuals.
Thank you for your answers. I appreciate it. I yield.
Before you go on, I just wanted to, Brendan, before you go on, I just wanted to acknowledge that there was a communication sent by Councilman Karpowitz regarding Brittany's representation that was sent, I guess, to the team on February 26th. So just wanted to note that she is here, and will be representing Councilman Karpowitz for at least through the legislative session.
So just a point of clarification. Is there a vote that needs to be taken on that, or could he? Okay, perfect.
No, we just needed to send the communication, which she sent to, I guess, you and Georgette last week, but I wasn't on that, so I wasn't aware.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions regarding finance report? All right. So at the bottom for monthly revenues, I wanted to pull this out because I think it's important that the council understands, our revenue is growing. And so, cannabis excise tax revenue just for the month of February alone was $2,006,858. We had our revolving loan interest revenue, and that's about $8,400. And then, as you can see, our total February revenue is $2,015,258. So things are growing. Extremely excited about what's happening here with respect to our dollars. So it was a strong revenue month for us. And zooming out from that, the SEC portion of the cannabis excise tax continues to grow year over year. And you can see our projected revenues as outlined on the next slide, please. On the next slide here, you can see the projected revenues as articulated. So this revenue trajectory strengthens the long-term stability of our reinvestment model. So we're not operating from scarcity, we're not operating from structured, we are rather operating from structured growth. And one of the things that I've been sharing with the Finance Committee and also our chairperson is diversifying our funds and not solely depending on interest from our loans, excise tax, et cetera. So more to come on that. There will be a lot of discussion on the finance subcommittee within the council as we plan to move forward. Next slide. All right, so Reimagine and Revitalize program update. R2, a pause. Madam Chair, I think there's a hand raised.
Hawkins.
So I want to just commend you all on providing this level of detail. I know I stopped into the office and had some chats with you all, and one of the things that I'll just share with folks is that I was feeling like you and your team, you're doing some pretty amazing work, but it does not get reflected as well as I think that it could. And I think today's story around the financials and where you're trending toward and some projection information, I know is incredibly helpful for me, and I hope others and folks that are attending this meeting today are beginning to see and feel the impact of what I think you all do quietly. And so through you, Madam Chair, I just want to just express that I think it's really improving and telling a better story than what I think we've seen in the past. So well done.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your support, Madam Chair of the Strategic Planning Committee, and also just providing us with some tools. Reimagine, Revitalize our grant program. And I just wanted to quickly give you all an update. The R2 program is fully operational. We are moving full steam ahead. Thank you. Special shout out to Chair Ojala and the committee. We've held in-district engagement sessions, most recently in Stanford. Next slide. Stanford, with over 35 attendees representing more than 10 organizations across Bridgeport and also Stanford. And we've engaged more than 80 community-based organizations, and that's just counting. We have, as you can imagine, 7 other districts or regions. We will be visiting and engaging with members of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, but specifically and strategically with those organizations who call each of the 10 regions home. So this is not like a passive rollout. This is proactive equity engagement. I'm really proud of our team as we engage so many organizations throughout the state. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just a quick question. As the recipients of our grantors, if you will, are preparing to submit their applications or issue their call for applications, how will we get information about that? I've had a couple of folks in the community ask about how can they apply, who's gotten the money. Will that information then come back to this body or to you so that we can then share it to folks who are interested?
Yeah, great question. This is actually the council's proactive approach to engaging community-based organizations to help them answer any frequently asked questions that they have, but specifically working with the members of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus who represent each of these 10 regions. So in terms of our communication pipeline, we will provide structured communication to this board in partnership with our grant managers. Hate to jump to my next part of the presentation, but Caesar, can you go to the next slide? There will be a grant managers training where we will onboard all of our 6 or 7 grant managers that we have that you've seen on the screen, just two slides prior to this. And the R2 training, which all council members, you all are invited to attend, will address the following. And I'm going to read them verbatim, and then I'll tie loose ends on your question, Madam Chair. The training will include our equitable evaluation and how to apply it in the selection process of these community-based organizations, best practices on assisting community-based organizations with data collection and reporting, an overview, expectations on the council's grant management software for review purposes. Also underscore the importance of compliance and oversight requirements by this body, specifically our Reinvestment and Workforce Committee. And also collaborate and align on the notice of funding and use the official rubric for the selection process of the CBOs that will apply for this funding. That training will be held on March 31st. It is a full day from 9 a.m. to 5. And again, this is to onboard our grant managers. This is our training. This is where we will align all of our communications in terms of, when applications will be made available for community-based organizations to apply within their particular region. And again, the reason we are taking this rather strategic approach with engaging folks on the ground level is that we don't want, folks to think this money is just a free-for-all. It is for the region that we have articulated. And Caesar, if you can just go back a couple slides to the list of all of the grant managers. And I'm sorry, I'm doing popcorn here, but I just think it's important that we slow down and just take a look at this. These regions, as you see on the left-hand side, those are the regions where community-based organizations, they'll apply to these grant managers to the right, okay? These are the regions that we voted for. They have the highest number of DIAs, census tracts, if you would. And so it's important that this body understands the importance of this process, because the process builds, it's like one brick at a time. And that's what we've been doing over the last year and a half. Again, this will also be included in your board or council packet, where you'll have a lot of information so that you can refer back to and not have to try to take copious notes, while I'm going through my updates.
Oops, Councilman Medina.
Yep, thank you. Question to the chair. Is it true that we are doing single year fiscal year grants through the grant managers, or are we also including multi-year commitments? Ask for thinking through the feasibility of a smaller community, organization, and whether or not it may be more cost efficient on their hand, or even logistically challenged on a year-over-year application process.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to my Chief Program Officer, Madi. She can respond.
Sure, thank you. No, we are doing 3-year awards. So it's one application at some point in Q2 of 2026, and the award will be a 3-year award. There will not be multiple application periods during the next 3 years.
Love that. Thank you.
You're
However,
welcome.
and I just going back to what was discussed at I think the last meeting, it's not like a guarantee, like you get this money regardless for 3 years. There's the initial award, but you are going to have to demonstrate outcomes and all of that. The money won't just be given for the 3 years regardless.
Yeah, Marty, if you just quickly, because I think this is important, especially the climate that we're in, I do want everybody to understand that there's a process. There are reporting fiscal requirements. So Marty, if you just kind of want to quickly just go through that, and I know we're repeating, but I just think it's important to
Mhm.
just underscore.
Certainly. So when I say a 3-year award, I mean a 3-year contract, but there is no upfront payment for the CBOs, right? Nor the grant managers, right? The grant managers will be paid an initial sort of admin fee upon contract administration, which the highest amount is $60,000, and then they get paid quarterly to distribute those funds monthly to the CBOs. So there's no entity that's getting any large upfront amount of money. And to Madam Chair's point, right, the payments are contingent on compliance with fiscal reporting and programmatic reporting. So if we haven't received those completed and approved by the grant manager, there's no payment due at that time.
Cool. Any other questions regarding R2? And these are good. And this is a nice plug. I'm just looking over here at my calendar. We have a reinvestment meeting, workforce coming up soon. So I welcome you all. Please come out to our meetings. That is where we really dive deeper in detail and really providing context around a lot of the decisions that we've made in partnership with the council. So please keep them coming. It is very important that we are extremely communicative around this particular program, which is our front-facing program, where we make all of our investments back into the community. So we welcome all your questions. All right. Let's go to the next slide. All right, I just wanted to quickly highlight this. I shared this at our in-person meeting last month, but there's a lot of interagency coordination happening to support many of our DIA residents. We're also aligning these investments within the 10 regions that were just articulated through the R2 program so that we can have greater impact throughout the state of Connecticut. So more to come on what's happening between our $1 million investment between DOH and SEC. But I do want to underscore why this matters. Housing, as you all know, is a choke point in reentry, folks returning home. And so without housing, employment, and stability, all systems collapse, right? And so this is a strategic investment. And again, on behalf of our DI residents, I want to thank this council for supporting our strategic approach there. Next slide. All right. Before I yield the rest of my time to Maria, who has a quick update on our communications, I did want to just circle back to something that Council Chairwoman Comer mentioned at the outset in her introductions with respect to legislative session. There are several proposals on the table, which I've articulated in our packet, but I just want to lift up a couple of them. There is the ongoing conversation around the 7 to 3 year policy point, which essentially, the SEC remains committed to protecting the integrity of the existing framework. I don't want to jump too deep into the nuance of the 7 to 3 year policy. I think we're all familiar with it, but Madi, if you want to quickly in your legal vernacular, just give them the high level update of what it is so that we can all be on the same page. Greatly appreciate it.
Sure, thank you. So as we've discussed in the past, licenses that come about as a result of the social equity lottery have a 3-year restriction period where they cannot sell. to anyone or transfer their interest to anyone other than a social equity individual unless there's a death of a backer or a incapacitation to the extent that they cannot perform the duties um, of a backer. That same restriction applies to equity joint ventures, except it's a 7-year period where the SEI and the backers cannot increase their ownership past 50%, and the SEI cannot sell to anyone other than a social equity individual, right? And there are um, different proposals to change that 7-year period to be reduced to a 3-year period.
And while you're at it, let's just quickly transition into the proposal to replace the THC based on tax with a flat tax, which is modeled after Massachusetts. And again, these are all proposals, council members, but we want to make sure you all are in the loop and you know where we stand as council staff. Madi?
So currently, the cannabis retail stores, hybrid retailers, and micro cultivators that have a retail storefront have to sell their product with a tax that's tiered in 3 different levels, right? So based on the potency, there's 3 different types of taxes that you would pay if you went to buy gummies versus something that's a higher potency. The current proposal is to eliminate that tiered approach, those multiple levels of taxes, to have just one flat tax regardless of the potency level of the product. And that tax would be as it stands, and it was provided to us this morning at 10.75%, which is what's used in Mass. We've run our numbers internally. The effect on that, it would be that if sales remain constant, right, meaning sales don't change, they don't increase, it would result in a loss of the revenue that we receive by way of that excise tax, right? So the percentage of the tax collected will not be changed. We would still have the same increments in the different years, so 65, 775 as the years go by. But the amount collected, again, if everything remains constant, would decrease by $1.2 million in 2027. And you can have other projections in terms of what the loss means to the SEC. Folks think that having a flat tax rate might increase sales because it will reduce the cost of certain products within the industry.
Awesome. Thank you. So we just wanted to flag that, for council members. Again, we also have our own priorities of which we shared with you during our February in-person meeting. Christina will continue to provide updates around all of our policies that are moving through the legislative process. Lastly, you will see me testifying before the General Law Committee. Last evening, we spoke before the Appropriations Subcommittee group just to respond while we are an off-budget account, we still will be a part of the legislative process and reporting out on our budget, our program dollars, et cetera, to support full transparency and work alongside our partners here at DECD. That said, Madam Chair, I don't know if you had any other questions that you wanted me to touch on before transitioning to Maria, but I'll wait.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of the various pieces of legislation that were coming through.
Mhm.
And just, I guess I'll add that we have spoken with the Majority Leader's office,
Yes,
and he's noted that any changes would include a hold harmless for the council.
that's right. That's right. And we've also, on that note, we met with, as already mentioned, Majority Leader Rojas and also Speaker Ritter and members of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, of whom I will provide an update in terms of where we sit as the SEC on some of these proposals that will change because this is a part of the process, right? And so, but it's also a short session. So we want to make sure council members are abreast. So at this time, you can drop the presentation, Caesar. Thank you so much. Oh, and lastly, we do have our roundtable virtual conversation on Thursday. So all of you are welcome to participate, but we will unpack some of the proposals that we've shared here, and we want to hear from our social equity entrepreneurs directly. So we have a safe space for them. Again, that's Thursday of this week at noon. And if you need the link, we'll share that with you. I think Councilman Shirley, Madam Chair, has a question.
Thank you, Director. Question is, with regard to the change or the proposed change in hold period from 7 years to 3 years, do you is that something that the social equity entrepreneurs are asking for, or is it something that the backers are asking? Just want to get a sense of where the push is coming from.
Yeah, it's a really nuanced question that require a nuanced response. But because of time, I will respond. No, it's a great question. So there are two competing interests here. Obviously, you have your backer who, and I'm making an assumption here, but just to kind of add some color, I invested some money. I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to kind of move forward, right? Then you have your social equity individual who, but for their social equity status, I'm not sure that many of these backers would be where they are in terms of even being a part of the industry, right? And so what we're saying is, as a social equity individual owner, 50% or more, right? We need about 3 years to see that business mature, see some return on investment. And we are the Social Equity Council, and we want to protect that. And so while we hear, many of our backers who are part of the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber, quite frankly, which is a different stakeholder group, we're hearing the majority of our social equity individuals support this policy. But again, we are in active communication and direct communication with many of our social equity entrepreneurs to hear directly from them. And I will add this, some of them are learning the importance of understanding agreements that they had no clue, right? And how much power they actually have as a business owner. And so what we're doing is providing them with education, information, and the tools needed to make the best decision possible. But this is difficult because
Sure.
we want our businesses or our social equity individuals to be in good faith business partnerships, if that makes any sense. So we don't want to create, a scenario where you have someone investing millions of dollars and they're saying, hey, I want out and I can pay you out, but you have the 7-year policy here. What are we doing? And the argument is no other business requires, a statute of, a number in order for, you to say, hey, I want out. I don't want to be here anymore. And we're trying to figure that out. And we had that conversation with Majority Leader Rojas. And again, we don't have the answer. What we do know is we're supporting the intent of the Social Equity Council in that we want to provide opportunities for generational wealth, provide opportunities for these businesses to get some return on investments. And we find that you need at least 3 years to see any return on investment. But if you have any recommendation, we're open.
No, I'm just curious as to who was doing the pushing, and then to look at the difference, what the difference it has been over time with regard to increase in value. That was really what where I was going in terms of how the businesses are increasing in value over time. And, maybe 7 years is better than 3 in terms of protection, but no,
Yeah, if I could just add, we had some meetings scheduled. This was after one of the roundtables where the social equity individuals or entrepreneurs had mentioned that they felt a disconnect um, with their backers in some cases, and particularly those who are partnered with multi-state operators, right? And so we had these conversations, and I participated in one, and what I heard was pretty eye-opening and was a realization that we have all of these sort of rules of the road for social equity entrepreneurs that really kind of keep them stuck in some ways. But because of the way the language is written, MSO could like sell off their piece to another entity that's been created with the same principles, but it's now in a different name. And it's almost like a shell game. And it is really doing a disservice to some of our social equity entrepreneurs. I'm not going to paint with a broad brush and say all of them, but I think based on what I've heard and what we have heard from our social equity entrepreneurs, allowing them to have some of the flexibility that MSOs clearly have is increases the likelihood that they will be able to get a return on their investment, as you mentioned, if that makes sense.
yeah, yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilman Walton.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and Madam Chair, thank you. So I had 2 questions, but the first one, I had one question, but after what you just said, I just wanted to kind of ask you or Mr. McGee, when we're hearing the social equity entrepreneurs say that they're kind of being handcuffed around some things, are we providing support in that area in terms of legislative change, if it has to be language or other things that would help them prosper in that area?
So I defer to Director McGee from an operational standpoint, what we can do, should do.
Yeah, I mean, we have those opportunities to engage with our Cs through our virtual roundtables. We provide technical assistance, and we take directly what they're sharing with us serious, very serious, and we hope that the information that they're sharing would help better the entire social equity entrepreneur experience, and not just for one social equity individual, but recognizing that everybody's situation is different. But nonetheless, yes, technical assistance. We're moving toward a social equity assistance fund for our social equity individuals. And so there are a lot of moving pieces, but I just want to make sure I remind the council, we've spent several years, doing some things that we ultimately had to realign and adjust. And I'm also internally, operationally, hiring and training and moving, folks around so that we can better administer programs in a timely and strategic fashion. And recognizing that our folks, the sky is falling for a lot of them, and time is of the essence, and there is a sense of urgency. But I also want to make sure when we do disperse capital or funds, it's sustainable and it's helping them where they are. So yes, Councilman Walton, we're definitely hearing them, and our goal is not to, tie their hands or prevent or present rather challenges.
And I'll
Yeah,
just
no,
add-
and thank you. Okay.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna add, I think that when we have those roundtables with the social equity entrepreneurs, that information that they bring back in terms of their challenges, Director McGee does share with legislative leadership.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the language that you're seeing coming out is a direct result of the feedback that we have heard from them, as well as that they have shared with their own legislators around some of the challenges. And so, I think the good thing about legislation, if you will, is that there's always room for it to sort of morph. And I think what we're seeing is the need for some morphing so that particularly the equity aspect of this bill lives up to its promise.
Yeah, no, and I do appreciate that and the work that's being done. And so, so I guess my question becomes with tomorrow, are you Mr. McGee, you said that Director McGee, you said you were testifying tomorrow.
There is a meeting tomorrow before general law, and that's to testify in support of our legislative priorities. And in addition, kind of flag a few points so that the committee, as they deliberate on, feedback from public hearing, they know where we stand. So we're not making any hardcore decision, but given the information based on the proposals before the committee, we want the rest of committee members to understand where we stand as an organization.
And thank you for that. So, so when in terms of making whatever decision you make, have the social equity entrepreneurs had an opportunity to shape that and kind of being on the same page about where we go from here?
Yeah.
And the second, thank you. And then the second part of that, tomorrow round table, and there's more discussion. So will there be more opportunity to like say what we're in opposition to and in support of as we move forward?
Yeah, I want to parse that out a little bit because you're talking about two different things. So tomorrow is the General Law Committee public
Mhm.
hearing. And then on Thursday, we, SEC, will host our own virtual roundtable where we will engage with our social equity individuals who choose to show up, because that's important, who choose to show up, right? And so when they show up, we hear them, we take note, and we provide that feedback. And I'll add this one. We also hosted a series of conversations through our working group, of which that work is not concluded. A lot of the feedback from the different work group sessions where we had industry, municipalities, and youth weigh in on all of the issues, challenges, opportunities before the Social Equity Council. So a lot of that information is also included as we're making decisions. And not to mention, we have a legislative and policy committee as well that provides support.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. But those are great questions, and I definitely welcome you to the virtual roundtable on Thursday.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time, there are no other questions. I will yield the remaining time to Maria Miranda of Miranda Creatives, who will provide a communications update and share some progress on branding, public engagement strategy, and visibility efforts. Maria, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Nice to see you. Nice to see you again, actually. Well, Caesar's calling up my presentation. A quick reminder about some introductions. As Miranda McGee shared, I am the CEO and founder of Miranda Creative, a 38-year, 30-person brand management company located in Norwich, Connecticut, although I'm speaking to you today from a hotel room in Norwalk, just so you know where I am today. Really excited to share with you some quick look back and a quick look forward for the time ahead. But while Caesar is calling it open, I do want to begin from a point of gratitude. We are very honored by the relationship with the Social Equity Council. It means a great deal to us in our community as a whole. And the work that we do is very, very important. And I appreciate the privilege of being able to do this work with an outstanding team. Okay. Let's move to the starter slide. So a quick look back and a great look ahead. Next slide, please, Caesar. When I last stood in front of all of you, I shared with you a breakdown of what the year 2025 was going to look like regarding our universal branding, media relationships, community engagement, digital footprint, and I've got a great story to tell for you for what we accomplished together. Next slide, Caesar. Okay. As you all know, we got our brand standards and our applications of the brand standards in place very, very quickly. An example of this is the one-pager takeaway. everything that you see coming out of the Social Equity Council, including the backdrops you see behind your team members here, are all consistent. And that matters from a place of trust and continuity, and it conveys the core values of your organization and your desire to stay in that space of transparency and information delivery. Next slide, please, Caesar. Okay. Do you guys all remember me filming you at that meeting about a year ago? Right? That became a great video that we have shared both on your website and on social media. And I think you should know that video has achieved over 2,000 views. It is a great at-a-glance overview to understand what the council does, how it functions, and how it operates. And we're committed to updating that on a regular basis. So we'll probably go back in and do a new voiceover on that, CEO McGee, to make sure that we're current on that. From a social media adoption standpoint, you've gained over 200 followers this past year. So those members of the council who have been sharing posts and sharing information, thank you very much. You received over 18,000 organic views of your content across planned spikes for the June launch of branding, and then September and our December events. I want to emphasize for you that as 18,000 organic views, you have not done much in paid placement in social media, which will be something we'll be looking at in 2026. You achieved this organically without having to put any money behind it, and that's a lot to be proud of. Next slide, please, Caesar. Okay. The website underwent initial refresh for content sharing, especially around the R2 program and the need for the grant managers applications. It's going to be undergoing a significant shift, staying within the framework of Sitecore and the .gov environment, but we're going to be making some meaningful shifts in 2026 as to how people can find information. There'll be more educational videos moving forward as well, especially under the idea of the community-based process. We had some outstanding events, which again drove a lot of our social media engagement and got some great support from the community. Continuity in how these things are presented. We also were one of the proactive and leading environments to share our events out on CT News Junkie, again, in that argument and that statement about transparency, joining us, getting involved, and learning more about what we're doing. For our collateral, we produced the first annual report on behalf of the organization, again, all within the branding standpoint. And we had an outstanding gathering, and that video is available, was made available and is available 2 days after the annual meeting on the website for people to feel completely informed. Under media relationships, great photo of you, Andrea, by the way. Under media relationships, we clearly announced the grant program, got Brandon out onto a series of podcasts and other environments. This work is going to be a big priority moving forward in working in partnership with internal team members at the Social Equity Council. Okay. Let's talk about a great look ahead. And we've broken down our areas of responsibility for you, just like we did a year ago, so you know what to expect. Okay. So we're going to have continuity of items. We're going to be moving into paid social media content support, maintaining our annual report or annual meeting for transparency and information sharing. We're going to be focusing on distribution-ready video, for example, instructions on how to apply for grants, and brand-related graphic design support as requested or required. I'll just take a pause here for a moment to reinforce that we are taking an appropriate step back this year, still very highly committed and in great relationships. As your internal team grows, Miranda Creative will be turning over resources and information to them as is appropriate in that process. Our new priorities for 2026, we're going to be focusing predominantly on the R2 initiative as been shared previously. That involves all the same toolkit as we had to do last year, press and media relations, content, especially on the FAQ information. For everybody here on the call, FAQs and contents on the website are becoming more and more critical as individuals rely on the AI tools for delivering summary and maybe not going to the website. So it's very important that the website information be accurate and timely and not pulled from resources that are not accurate. So we're going to be focusing on content on the website in case those individuals glance at an AI post and think that is the most recent information. Okay. Under branding support, we're looking at developing icons and things related to your master brand for the revolving loan program, the R2 initiative, and all application tools as well. As I mentioned earlier, the website's going to be undergoing a comprehensive change, working within the Sitecore content management system within the state and making sure people can find what they're looking for. We want to make sure that, again, all aspects of transparency, information sharing, and access is as transparent in the digital footprint as it is in your outreach meetings. Okay. And my final statement is to answer any questions you may have and to continue to express my gratitude. Council members, anyone have any questions? Hearing none, I think it's time for me to yield the floor back to the council meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing all this information and the metrics. I think that making sure to Councilperson Hawkins' earlier point that the work that's being done is shared broadly is incredibly important. So that if we don't tell our story, someone else will.
Mhm. We want it to be our story.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, I'm going to excuse myself and leave this hotel room in Norwalk. Okay. All right.
Good to see you.
Thanks,
Take care.
Maria.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. Bye.
Right.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anything for the good of the order? Seeing none, Councilperson Gaddis.
Madam Chairwoman, I move to adjourn. Great meeting, great information. Thank you.
Second. Thank you, Councilperson Jefferson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstentions, I see none. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Great day, everyone.